Hi, it's Darcy from the Purposeful Pantry, and today we're talking about my favorite dehydrating books. So today we're going to be covering my favorite 3 dehydrating books, but there are a ton more that are beneficial to you. In the link down below to my blog post, I'll give you a list of great books that you can purchase. Either you can do it by ebook, you can do it by physical book, you can do them used. You can also get them at your local library, so check out all the available options. So first, let's get started with my 3 favorites. In no particular order, it's just the one I pick up next. And I'll tell you why I like them, what I don't like about them, and how they can help you. My first book is The Ultimate Dehydrated Cookbook by Tammy Gangloff. Tammy is a world-renowned dehydrator. She's very well known for all of the information that she shares. She has a YouTube channel called Dehydrate to Store. She has a website called Dehydrate to Store. And this book is a great beginner's book. It's about $24.95. It is full of information from the beginning of dehydrating to the end of dehydrating. She goes from how to get started, the information that you need to know to be safe. She goes through how to store, how to get things to go a little faster, how to prep stuff. She goes through A to Z on most foods that are available to those of us in the U.S. Not a lot of things that would be what we would consider being exotic fruits or vegetables, but she does go through the basics of all of the majority of fruits and vegetables that you might have anywhere around the world. As you can see, when I got this book, I've stained the cover of it. I still have all of the original Post-it markers of things I wanted to look at, wanted to try, and wanted to test for myself. This book is great. It's a great beginner's book. It is full of information. It's full of dehydrating tips, and it's also got a huge section for recipes. Some of the cons about this book are the fact that there are no photos along with the recipes, and that's typical of a lot of cookbooks to help cut down on the price. Because if you have a cookbook full of photos, they tend to cost more. There are photos that are in the middle of each of the sections. Like before you start a new section, there are some photos there that kind of cover what's about to be done, but photos within each of them, so you don't see a before and after of what is on, like if you're dehydrating bananas, you're not seeing a before and after photo of what bananas should look like, although she does explain what they should be like. The recipes are great. You can go through and pick up any of the recipes in the back of her book and learn how to integrate your dehydrated food into the foods that you eat every day. But this is a great book to get you started if you want something physical in your hands to help you through the day. So the next book we've got is The Dehydrating Bible by Jennifer McKenzie et al. This is, at current price, is $24.95. I did not pick up this book originally. When I first started dehydrating, I picked up a few books, including Mary Bell's Dehydrating Bible, I think that's what it's called, and the Ultimate Dehydrated book, and those are the only ones I used for the longest time. And then over time, I thought, you know, if I'm going to be writing a blog about dehydrating, I need to go ahead and start picking up some more books so I can look and see what's out there, so I can give recommendations. This is one of the very last ones I've picked up recently. Just because I already had what I thought was pretty much the epitome of cookbooks for dehydrating. But here's another book around the same price that is full of tips and tricks on how to dehydrate, and it's very specific and to the point. It's not a lot of reference, but what it is a ton of recipes. So I'll show you. Let me get it marked off here. This is the How to Dehydrate section. This is the recipe section. About a quarter of this book is how to dehydrate. The other 3/4 of this book are recipes, and half of those are for trail and hiking recipes that are specific to people who are hiking and backpacking and camping, who need different kind of meals to make lightweight and easy to put together when you're on the trail. The book is very lightweight as far as the information that's in it. It's very to the point. You've got a section on how to dehydrate, and then you've got like an A to Z on what you are making or what you're drying, and it's very factual. It's just the tips, it's just the instructions, and then it moves on to the next thing. There's very little information about hints for preparation, hints of what it should look like when you're done and what might be different. It is very specific and to the point. So this book is a reference book for recipes. I would say that probably that's how I would use this if you were trying to buy a book that had just a lot of them. This is the one, you know, one of the major ones that I would buy for that reason. However, if you are a trail person and you want to hike, and you're a hiker and you want to backpack in lots and lots of meals, The Backpacking Chef is the book I've got to get the name of it, and I'm sorry I don't have it. I'll put it right here. I didn't look it up right before I did this. His book is the one that I would go to if you're serious about backpacking and hiking and want to carry in meals that are good, that have been tested out on the trail. His book is the one that I would get. Okay, the last book that I picked up is The Beginner's Guide to Dehydrating Food by Teresa Maroney. I think it's Marone, not sure, but this is the book. It is also $24.95. This book, like the Tammy Gangloff, The Ultimate Dehydrated Cookbook, is full of information in the beginning about how to dehydrate, the ways to store, the safety measures that you should take, and all the things that you need to know to learn how to dehydrate. Also, within each of the pages for how to dehydrate a specific food, the A to Z portion, it's done in A to Z, including fruits and vegetables, which I like because that way I can just look up something quickly instead of having to try to figure out where in the book the fruits and vegetables are. I like the generalized A to Z format. And within each of those, there are tips and tricks about how to do that specific food, including how to oven dehydrate or how to dry in the sun or in the air if you're going to do that kind of drying on most foods, not all of them, but a lot of them, so that she gives you some options if you're not one who has a dehydrator. She also has some plans to build your own dehydrator, your powerless dehydrator to put outside. So that's some extra things in this book that aren't available in the other two. And I'm going to tell you some of the pros and cons about this book so that you can make your decision. We're going to start with the cons. The thing about this is that she recommends poultry to be dried too low and doesn't give an explanation about, sorry, my rabbit's hungry. She doesn't give you an explanation about why the temperatures that she suggests are the way they are. Later in the book, when she's talking about jerky and dry meats, she tells you to cook your meats all up front to a safe temperature of 160 to 165, especially for poultry. But in the beginning of the book, when she's talking about drying meats, she gives a temperature of 140, and it doesn't explain anything else. The safe measures for doing poultry from the National Center for Home Food Preservation is that if you're going to cook poultry, you cook it ahead of time at 165 and you keep that temperature up there as much as you can, and then at the end you can blast it at 250 in your oven for about 10 or 15 minutes to make sure that temperature is high. You can't just simply put raw poultry into your dehydrator for human consumption and dry it at 140. It must be cooked ahead of time. Or if you decide to go ahead and do it dry, you must blast it at the end to make sure that you've got that temperature up to kill any bacteria that might be in your poultry. That's just one thing, that if you didn't go back and read the whole section on how to dehydrate meat and you only saw that one, you would assume it's okay to do chicken raw at 140, which it's not. However, for your dogs, it's fine. And I can even link you to the recipe on my blog about doing chicken for dogs, because that's okay. They don't have the same issues that we do about dealing with food like that. What she doesn't cover, which Tammy does in her Ultimate Dehydrated Cookbook, is powders. There's really no mention that I've read the couple times I've gone through the book about how to make powders from the foods that you've done and what to do with them. And I'm really big on powders in our family because my family doesn't like to eat a lot of vegetables that are really healthy for you in their regular format, but I can put them in a powder and then put them in our food, and we're still getting that same, close to that same benefit. And powders are an excellent way to increase the usefulness of your dehydrated foods. She does talk about conditioning, which is high on my list of things that people don't do that I like to teach because people don't know that you should be doing it. And in the Dehydrating Tips and Tricks Facebook group that I have, conditioning is like, it's big. I mean, I'm always on people. If you've dried it, condition it. It's important. Let's talk about the pros of this book. Big, huge, beautiful pictures on every page about everything that you're drying. So if you're talking about drying bananas, you're going to see the before and after of what bananas should look like. If you're talking about drying any kind of vegetable, there is a before and after of what that food should look like, which makes this book a great book for a beginner. It has enough useful information in the beginning to teach you how to dehydrate. Giving you the before and after photos of everything that you're working on makes it so beneficial to people who don't have an understanding of what dry food should be like. When there are photos for almost everything she does in here about what your food looks like before and after. The other thing that I love is that she does place such a big emphasis on solar drying and air drying in this book that isn't covered in the other ones. So for those of you who don't have a dehydrator or live in a climate where solar and air drying are more beneficial, or you just don't have access to an electric machine, she talks a lot about that in this book. So there are those recipes that she gives you the options of how to dry that way, and also the oven option, that if you don't have a dehydrator, you can still use your oven. I've also done a blog post about how to use an oven for dehydrating that I'll link down below, but this book covers a lot of that. So if you're brand new to the market, you're just learning how to dehydrate, you really want a physical book to have in your hands, all 3 books that I've talked about are the exact same price. So if you're going to go just by what is available information, what is the most useful information, what gives you the most, this is now my #1 book. And surprisingly, it is. This book is one I've recommended to people for years. It is a great book, and I don't want to disparage Tammy at all. I love this book. I'll never get rid of this book. I will use this book all the time. But the thing that makes the Beginner's Guide to Dehydrating just that much better are the photos. The photos are so important, especially when you're new to dehydrating, so that you know exactly what to look for. They're all the same price. They all are $24.95. And if you're going to spend $24.95 on a cookbook for dehydrating, this is now my go-to book. So I hope this has been helpful for you. And remember, I've got a blog post listing other books that are really helpful that you may want to use as well. And I just want to say again that just because I picked one book over another book, versus this book, doesn't mean that any of these 3 books are not great books. They are all 3 great. But if I have to pick the one that I'm going to start recommending to people who are new to dehydrating, I'm going to choose The Beginner's Guide. But I'm also going to always recommend Tammy's book because I love this book. It's a great book. And I would love to know what your favorite dehydrating book is. Would you just place, just give the title down below and tell me what you liked and didn't like about it? So I will talk to you again next time. If you like this information, please like and subscribe to my channel. And then let me know anything that you'd like me to cover down in the future. And I'll talk to you later.